when you understand the nature of reality, and you understand that everything is simply energy, and you understand that these two different polarities of energy are manifested in this physical reality as the two emotional energies of love and fear, then you begin to understand how it works. Now, I'm not saying we form any one world religion and start worshipping Gaia and the hell with everything else and whatever. All I'm saying is that having a basic understanding of how this energy works, understanding that if you're not in a state of love, then you are moving into a state of fear, because there are only these two polarities. Everything in between are simply different points on the scale between the two extremes of unconditional love and absolute fear. All other emotions fall within those 2 points. Having that simple understanding can work wonders in your life. And when you begin to understand that the way to access the higher vibration of love, the polarity of love, the way to move towards that polarity is through empathy. Empathy and compassion. Those two things could change the entire world. If every single person started acting in a state of empathy towards every action that they conducted with another person, if every single person in this reality, if every person on this earth suddenly understood that there is only a single consciousness here, there is only a consciousness that exists in the surrounding field, and we are all frequencies of that consciousness. We are all connected to each other energetically. We are all part of the same conscious energy field. What we are experiencing is simply what that one particular frequency is manifesting. This is happening so that the overall consciousness can experience all that there is to experience. As soon as we choose to be in the correct energetic state, as soon as we consciously choose the love polarity on the scale, and we choose to be in a state of empathy, we choose to connect with each other, we choose to do the right thing in all that we do, and to not succumb to the fear, to not succumb to the need to dominate others, to understand that we are the others, we are each other. As soon as we can come to that understanding, the entire consciousness of humanity will shift. And we don't need all of humanity to do this. All we need is a critical mass. All we need is a certain percentage of humanity to start understanding the connection that we have, start feeling the connection that we have, start living the connection that we have to each other. Once we can do this, then all the problems are solved. We can still have technology. I've often said we can still do all of the wonderful things we can hope to do. We could do more. We could start conducting space travel. We could start doing all sorts of things if we started acting humanitarianly instead of economically. We waste so much time on depopulating the planet and spreading pollution. The depleted uranium that's been dumped on the Persian Gulf by the ruling banking cartel, this is disgusting, folks. This is the most extreme case of environmental vandalism that has ever been seen in the entire history of the world. This whole area has been rendered virtually uninhabitable forever. It's just been completely covered with depleted uranium. This stuff's got a half-life of over 4 billion years, older than the Earth itself. We've seen the birth defects in Iraq, and it's shocking, folks. It's absolutely shocking what these people have done. And it's still going on. This is an ongoing thing. See, when they're going and waging these wars, they're not just going and having a war and killing people. They're using depleted uranium weaponry while they do it. And they are completely polluting these areas forever, so that these areas will become uninhabitable. It's just bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. And this just continues, folks. So this is the sort of stuff that we need to address, and this is the sort of stuff that people need to stand up and start making noise about, because it's simply not acceptable. And we need to say to our governments, we need to say to our leaders and hold our leaders accountable and say to them that, hey, look, this is what's going on. So you, Mr. Obama, you, Mr. Rudd, you, Mr. Brown, all of you people, you need to address these problems or step down. And you have 30 days for us to see action, or you have to step down. We're going to ask the police to arrest you. You know, it's time for the police to just do this off their own bat anyway. It's time for the Commissioner of Police in all of our countries to understand that he's supposed to be the head of the domestic security force, and he's supposed to be looking after the best interests of the people. He's not there to follow legislation and to cater to the whims of corrupt banking cartels in order to feather his own nest and live in a more comfortable house. It really is time for the people that we have entrusted our security to act. And this is why I've addressed a lot of this show towards the police force, because it really is one of the biggest problems that we have is the fact that our police are so thoroughly brainwashed and are so thoroughly supportive of an extremely corrupt system. I mean, even on television and in all movies, police are very, very glorified. They are portrayed as heroes in almost every show that you ever watch on TV. And yet, if you ever come across the police in real life, usually it's quite a scary type of an encounter. Usually they just behave like government-paid thugs, and they do terrible things to the public. But I believe a lot of police officers do join the force because they want to help. And I believe a lot of them are very much indoctrinated into a completely different way of thinking. They are taught to perceive every single person in society as a false threat, and to act accordingly, and to act in a manner towards civilians which is defence by aggression. It's almost like the preemptive strike mentality. I believe that this is what has happened to a lot of police officers, and very many of them have been so indoctrinated into that way of thinking now that they simply see everybody and everything as a false threat. And again, this is very much due to the fear-based structure of our societies. So I really believe that people need to put away the fear. I believe the most important decision that any person could make, any person in any position of power, any police officer, I believe the most important decision that any of these people could make is the decision to choose to look at what is really going on here, and the decision to act in order to address the problem. The decision to acknowledge the fact that all of the problems that we face on this planet all have a common cause. And we can address that cause. We don't need war to do it. We don't need violent revolution to do it. All we need is a peaceful rebellion of non-compliance to the system. I really believe that that is the way to fix the problem. The problems that we face are all based in fear. Every single one of them. All of the police hierarchy is structured in fear. If people within these organizations chose to do the right thing, it would make an incredible difference to the direction that humanity is moving into. If soldiers simply chose not to fight, that would make all the difference to the wars. We face enormous problems as a species, but all of the problems that we face come from ourselves due to our willingness to support the system that I've outlined for you on the program today. Our decision to support this system on a daily basis, and all we need to do to support it is to remain quiet about it, folks. Our decision to do this is what keeps the system functioning. It's what keeps the illegal wars functioning. It's what keeps people losing their homes. It's what keeps all of the resources being mined from the planet being strip mined. The whole corrupt mess, everything, all the problems that we face, all of this is supported by every person who remains quiet and shuts their eyes and looks the other way. to what's really going on. As von Goethe once said, every man is guilty of all the good he didn't do. We can choose to reach up ourselves and to begin to steer the ship of state in the direction that it should be going for humanity. We can choose to hold our leaders accountable. We can choose to hold any politicians who attempt to get in the way of holding these people accountable. We can hold them accountable as well. We can simply stand up and peacefully remove all these people from power, give them a slap on the wrist and tell them they've been very naughty people. Go back and live in the suburbs on a minimum wage for a while. I'm not suggesting that we do harm to anybody.